Alrighty, hello everyone, Richard Carlton, and welcome to Monday. It's an awesome Monday. A lot of people are on the road traveling home. If you're that person, drive safely. If you're Bunny and you're desperately trying to drive home as fast as you can, please take your time. Don't get in a bunny wreck. That would be unfortunate. Today's broadcast is on join tables or AKA many-to-many relationships. Terms that I really despise because it leads people down the path of not understanding what the heck they're doing. And so we are going to be attacking this topic today directly. So once again, I'm Richard Carlton, creator of FMtraining.tv, where we create awesome video courses. I'm going to flip myself around there and move myself over here, where we create awesome video courses at our website, FMtraining.tv. When you get to the website, there are a couple important tabs. There's a live training tab right here. You can see the upcoming broadcasts. If you want to help support the channel, we definitely recommend that you check out one of the two training bundles. Most of you here have these, but there's a lot of people who will watch the recording. If you're a lurker, you're out there watching the recording and you want to come and support the live broadcast, or you enjoy these videos, definitely go check out fmtraining.tv and click the bundle link right here. So let's talk about many-to-many relationships. So this is a conversation, really. What I need to do is kind of draw. Let me just do this with FileMaker real quick. So, you can't see that. That's part of our new FileMaker Go WebDirect updated video course. Ooh, that was cool. I don't know what that was. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say create a new file, blank file for me. Let's see, create new. This thing is talking to Cloud 2. It always does this, right? So then go to my Mac, save it on my Mac. We're going to call this, I'm going to call it join table, but I really hate that term, right? And I'll explain to you what I mean by that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this as a drawing tool for right now. I'm going to hide my left and right sides because I don't really care. What I need is a giant drawing space over here. I'm going to get rid of the header and the footer. So it's one of those like random moments where you use FileMaker, not what it's for. Okay, use it for other things like pictures. And so the conversation about join tables. So let's dive into this. And if you have questions, okay. So I'm pivoting just to the conversation about the live stream. So a join table. People say, "Oh, we need a join table. We need many-to-many relationships. Teach me what a join table is." And I'm like, no. I think it's a giant mistake for trainers, and it's a universal fail from trainers. Listen, if you're already an IT database programmer from the world of Oracle or SQL or something like that, or, MySQL something, then yeah, you probably understand join and you love that idea. But in the world of FileMaker, we deal with a lot of people who have real jobs. Like Ken, for example, on Discord, is a balloon certified flight instructor is what I'm going to call him, even though he says there are no such thing as, I guess, flight instructors. If you get a hot air balloon, you just get it and you joyride with it without any worry about anything. It says no instructors. I guess it's a free-for-all. But let's just pretend that Ken's a certified flight instructor in balloons. That's his day job. His part-time weekend thing that he does a little bit is FileMaker. And so if Ken comes to me and says, and I'm going to pick on Ken this episode, so that's fine. I'm going to go probably visit Ken over the next couple months at some point, hopefully. The idea is that we need to learn this from the business side. A join table is a technical term that a database person, IT person applies to a business thing. It's a join table is a real entity in the world of business. When the Kens and the Bunnies come to me and they say, "I don't understand join tables. What do I do? Because I read all this stuff and I said I had to have join tables and I don't know what they are." You've already done yourself a huge disservice. Whoever wrote that article did you a huge disservice, like big time disservice. And so the idea is that you need to identify the business processes that you already know. You know your business. Like Ken knows the hot air balloon business backwards and forwards better than most people. If I went to work, Ken doesn't know anything about FileMaker. He hires me, I go over there, and let's pretend I don't know anything about aviation, right? Ken is an infinite expert on aviation and ballooning, far above what some random FileMaker consultant knows. The random FileMaker consultant has to kind of learn your process, but you already know it because it's your business, it's your organization, it's your workflow. If I say business, you have business processes, whether you're a school, education, nonprofit. We were talking to, emailing back and forth with a museum today. and they were trying to archive some documents that are going to get lost. So, you know, with containers and things. So, you know, I say business, just don't freak out that it's not like, you know, McDonald's at the corner in a franchise, right? It could be your business, whatever that is. So you understand it. You understand all the moving pieces to this. You have to ask yourself, what are the pieces that make it good? Let's talk. I'm going to use two different examples today. I'm going to start with the let's start with a travel business, right? Kind of a travel business. So this is a real conversation, and everything that we're doing here is stuff that we covered in our live training, but you can ask questions here. So if we get questions, once again, on top of join tables or many-to-many relationships, we'll dive into that. You have to start the process by mapping out your workflow, right? If nothing else, is person A does this, B, C, D, and you get to some sort of like workflow from top to bottom what the process looks. If they start here and they end here. So if you are the travel business right now is taking a bath because of all the COVID stuff and people aren't traveling. However, people are dying to travel. They can't wait to travel. They're all cooped up. I have, you know, a bunch of engineers that can't wait to go and take trips and stuff. But let's just talk about this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the box right here. I'm going to draw this box out. And what I'm going to do is actually what I need actually. Oh, that was brilliant. Wrong button. That was I hit Command Q or hit Control W for the wrong thing. All right, so I'm going to go back to layout mode here real quick. What I want is I want a text box. Let's start with a text box. Okay, I'm just going to create a box here with a fill. That's not the fill. That's the line around the outside edge, and this is the fill. Can be some sort of, you know, color like that or something. Okay, so here is the box. I'm going to put that in there, and I'm also going to center it vertically. And so this is going to be kind of the tool that I'm going to use for now with this. And so I'm going to say that we have customers or people that want to go on trips. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. I'm going to use my keyboard shortcut. I'm going to make this a whole lot bigger. So we have people here, okay? So we're just drawing a map and drawing a picture. We have people who want to take a trip. And so we know that somehow we are a travel agent, and what we do is we put together trip packages. So you can come to me and say I'm doing this in Europe, right? And I'm creating a travel package in the United States. And as a travel person in Europe, as a travel broker organizer, I would call Ken's Amazing Balloons Incorporated in Albuquerque, and I would arrange as part of the trip, you get to go on a balloon ride. I'd also arrange the airfare. I'd also arrange some trips to various places to see. I would do all these sort of things, right? Does that make sense? And so as a result of that, I put together a complete package for 3,000 euros or 4,000 euros or whatever the number might even be, right? There's all sorts of things. And that package is kind of this discounted, complete bundle of travel. It's really awesome. So we want people to take a packaged, we're going to call this a packaged travel trip, right? And the important thing is, once again, we're writing this down because we know that someone said, hey, we have FileMaker, and we started building FileMaker, and then it didn't make sense, and I couldn't understand the relationships, and it seemed broken, and then I read that I need a join table. I can't tell how many of you are here probably having this conversation right now. It's quite a few. So what I'm going to do is continue the conversation. People are talking about off-topic things over here. I'm just going to kind of ignore that for the moment. Yeah, there's not too much going on. And then welcome with Wally in Holland. Hey, Wally. So we have so Wally in Holland is our travel broker. So now we've got that worked out. So, and Wally is putting together a package so you can get the airfare and everything worked out. So the people buy the travel package. So, well, don't I need a joint relationship? How do I connect these two? People can take a trip, right? You know, and I can draw a line, and we could do this whole thing, and we can establish that. We have this travel package. I'm going to make it like a 4-point line and make it black. I'm sneezing, allergies. So the idea is that people can take a travel package trip, but it's really not that simple, because if you have a person in the database, they could take, what could they really do? They could take a trip. They could take a trip with other people. The fact they probably want to take a trip with other people, right? And then they could take a trip more than once. And so the question is you have to think about all the times that these things actually occur, because you have a person that you know, and that person could also be a person who takes a trip, right? And so there's this element down here. Then they can actually go on a travel package, right? Now, if Wally calls Ken and say British Airways and Ken at the balloon place and gets all these deals going and he negotiates these contracts, is that a one-shot deal? Probably not, because Wally is probably going to want to sell this package all the time. And so there's this issue over here that you have this package travel trip, but really, Wally is going to negotiate that trip once, right? And it's more like a cataloged item. He's gonna negotiate the deal, have contracts in place. Then he's gonna want to repeat that, right? And so the idea is that with each of the items over here in this table, we write this thing: one record, I would say equals, right? So one record equals I would just say a person, right? Over here. So one record over here. What is one record over here? Once again, we're not building database. We're just saying that because of rules of databases, we have to establish what a record is, right? It's one of those little like concepts that we have to think about. And so one record is a package travel trip, right? And so you have that. Then over here you have one person who takes a trip. Now, a person over here who might buy a trip is different than a person over here who takes a trip, right? So then we start to see that we have and you're like, well, you could combine these over here and have a status field in FileMaker. That's true, you could do that. But once again, we're just structuring this out. So then we have one record equals one travel trip. So then the question is, well, if you do a trip, don't multiple people get to come on the trip? Because say that I am over there and I buy Wally's trip, I'm going to go by myself. If I am a introvert, which you all know I'm not, I would want some like people to keep me company. I'd probably need Elzo, I'd need Top Cat, I need Scott, I need TK. I'd pay for all these people to come with me, and so we'd have one group thing, and so we could go to this trip and have a great time. And so plus we get to see Ken and fly in his hot air balloon. It'd be awesome. So you start to get this idea that if you arranged a contracted trip, this is like what would be a catalog offering. Okay, so this is like the idea where you set the contract up, it's in one place, it's something but you want to repeat it because you want to sell it every month because Wally wants to make business, right? In fact, Wally might repeat it every week if it's really popular, right? Say Ken in the hot air balloon, he flies over Hollywood and flies really low, like 100 feet. Like he likes to fly over people's backyards at about 100 feet is what he told me. He's really low. He can see in their windows. And say he's flying over Hollywood and he can see in all the actors' windows, right? People would be on that trip every week. So Ken's hot air balloon ride at 100 AGL feet above the ground through Hollywood, right? Super popular, right? So you're going to offer that every week. So what we have to do is I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it right here. I'm going to say one record equals, I would say a specifically scheduled trip. So now you start to see that we have some interesting things going on here. You set up the contract, but now you're going to repeat it a whole bunch of times, right? Does that make sense? So I'm going to paste, I'm going to put this over here. I'm just going to draw this out. So it's like that, copy, paste. I'm going to put one here. This is basically a way of saying it's kind of a one-to-many, right? Makes sense? And I guess I could use some sort of diagramming tool, but I'm trying to keep it really simple today. So you build a package. Then we're going to say on this one specifically, I might come down here and say that this is going to be, June. Let's just say it's once a month, right? So, this might be one, you're going to have say we have a record, let's call it the Ken's 100 AGL Hollywood Special, right? FAA will be chasing him. He'll be in deep doo-doo, but whatever. So that's this trip that he set up over here, right? So that is the trip name. I'm going to put it over here, move myself out of the way a little bit. And then, but Ken wants to offer that. He's going to offer that in July, in August, in September, October. And so Ken and Wally get together. They figure I can make a ton of money doing this. And so we're going to offer this. So that is a record in one table. This is a record in one table. Notice I haven't said the word join anywhere, right? And so then you have a person who takes a trip, right? And so you're going to have a person, probably a person who probably buys an invoice, right? And let's just assume for a second that when they buy the invoice, they're just buying for themselves, because there could be extra levels in here. Like if I bought for Elzo and TK and Jericho 1, everyone, say I was a really nice guy, buy for everyone, that complicates it. So for simplicity, let's say everyone is going to pay their own way, right? So the person who takes a trip, who also paid for the trip. And so when you see something like this, then suddenly you start to think that this might be an invoice record right here, okay? And so the person who is going to go, now that invoice record is going to actually go on the trip. And so if I was going to build this, I would probably structure it this way, because really, in a situation like this, if one person is going to take the trip, through a single relationship like this, then that trip is only for one person. But that's not true, because you could have many people, right, who are going to take the trip. So that's one. Remember, it's one person who took the trip. Well, for the trip to be profitable, we need 30, 50, 100 people on this trip, right? And so then suddenly you're going to have a whole bunch of people down here. I would just simply say we're going to have Jericho 1, we got TK, we got Top Cat, we got Carol, we got the other Carol, and whoever else is running around here. Gudidi, yeah, there we go, Gudidi. Okay, so these people all want to take the trip, which means that we have, once again, a many-to-many relationship. So we're going to go paste that. We're going to go like that. We have many people here going on a single trip. Okay, makes sense? We're diagramming this. This is the most critical aspect, in my opinion, and it's the hardest part of structuring what we're doing. So if you have questions about this, definitely let me know. No questions on this at all. So the idea is that we don't want to use the word join tables. We have a joint table up there, which is kind of funny. So questions about structuring this. If I go to Wally, and Wally's a travel person, I ask him about his business, he knows all this intuitively. He knows it better than I do. He's also going to tell me that, one person is going to pay for all these people. So these would be the people that actually would be taking the trip, right? So a one record is a person who one person who takes trip. Okay, that's all we say. Okay, so that's these people here, right? And then maybe over here, I'm gonna have to probably like zoom this down one notch here. Sorry about that, everyone. Make it bigger, because we're running out of room. The relation. This is what you have to structure. You have to get all this going, right? So I'm gonna get that, and that. And we're going to like pedal to the right a little bit here. And so we're going to say that one person who takes the trip, right? And so then we have the one record is an invoice, right? Okay. And the invoice could have let's say on the invoice, each line is a different person taking a trip. So, you got Gudidi, it's, 3,000 euros. You got Top Cat, he's sketchy, he's 4,000 euros. He's like you had to add extra insurance for him, right? And then you got Elzo, and you got all these people. So the question is that, so then really, if that's an invoice, and then one invoice that probably, for the moment, let's say one person pays, then suddenly you've got a situation where that might be a contact record here who might buy. This is an invoice. That is what, anyone? That is a what? That's going to be that's going to be your line items for your invoice, really, at the end of the day, right? So you have, that's actually backwards. I have that entirely backwards. I'm going to put it over here like this. One invoice. I messed it up. Let me move this up like this. Like that, move it down, so it's like that. So it moves it down, sorry about that, for the mayhem on the screen, okay? And I'll range, and I'll bring that to the front so it looks a little nicer. So one person to one invoice. The invoice has line items, which are, each line item will be a person who's getting paid for a trip, right? And they will be attending a specific trip that is scheduled. But that trip will be a recurring trip of Ken's 100-foot AGL Hollywood special through the back door window, so you can see what Tom Cruise looks like butt naked, right? So there you go. That is the conversation that has to occur. You have to have not so much a conversation about foreign keys and primary keys and all this kind of stuff. You need to have a conversation about your business process and draw it out. In fact, actually, if I was talking to Wally right now, Wally would be saying, you know, it's actually more complicated than this, because then you'd have an invoice here, but then various people could pay their part of the invoice, right? So, you know, you could have a couple different additions. I'm putting my hands over here on the screen. You can't see my hands. Okay, so here we go. Ready? So it could be a little bit more complicated over here, right? So sorry about that. I'm drawing pictures with my hand and no one can see what I'm doing. So it could be more complicated over here. Would depend upon your business model, right? And once again, you're the expert of your business, right? If we were discussing a balloon trip and many people on the trip and, you know, how is that arranged? These diagrams would look different. So, I mean, I guess we could build this, but I would rather answer the business questions here, because once you have this, then that's table, 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 table. That's step one. Step two, primary key in each one. And then from there, you put the foreign key in it and you connect the relationships, right? Christian is saying, this is great. How many of our coaches have said in similar situations where clients ask if there isn't another way, i.e., this is really complicated and just avoid the middle table? Okay, so listen, if you want FileMaker to work for you and to give you the information you want and not suck, you have to take the time to structure this out. If you can't structure this out, like in terms of your business, then go hire Christian or one of the coaches or a senior engineer for a couple hours, at least sit and diagram this with you, and then you can build it. But it's good to get some sign off on it. If you build this incorrectly, you spend 500 hours building a FileMaker solution and you're missing, say, a piece in here, right? Then a third of that 500 hours is probably a throwaway. You have to go back and put it in and redo it. That's going to stink. Couldn't we just duplicate the package? Duplicate the package. Well, when you're building tables, right? Once again, I'm starting this. And this is Christian's throwing balls at me here, but I would build this from scratch. But if we were starting it from starting point, yeah, you would find tables that kind of closely mimic in the fields that they have what you need, and then I would duplicate those and rename them. I mean, that's how you cut the corner and make life simpler and faster for you. But is the table on the far right redundant? Not at all. The table on the far right is, okay, so okay, so let me take a step back. I'm going to leave this one up here. We're going to do this one more time. I've only done this once. I'm trying to make sure you folks are engaged. And so it looks like we are. So let's talk about this from an educational school model, okay? And then once I do this one, I will ask you if it's redundant, okay? So this is your kid. This is actually one of my staff has a kid. We call him the money tree. Long story, as his call sign is money tree, because we took the family to dinner, and he basically said, "Screw you," because money grows on trees. And it was funny because I said, well, it's not like $1 million grows on a tree, but then suddenly I had the epiphany that $1 million, I could get it on eBay. That's where we had the whole conversation, and we actually have like $1.2 million in cash, right? It's really that's a $50,000 stack of $100 bills. So it's kind of whenever people give me ideas, I tend to run with them, right? And so this is a student, one student. This is a specific person, right? And we know they want to go to school, and they want to go to classes. So one record equals a class, right? So then you say, well, what kind of class is that? Well, it could be a math class. It could be an English class. But basically, it's a specific, like I could say it's, I could say 6th grade, and this is American. I don't know what they do in Europe. 6th grade math, right? I can widen this out a little bit. We could have, and that in 6th grade math depends on what track you're on in the United States. That could be pre-algebra, or it could be more basic stuff than that. We could say 6th grade English, like here's a sentence, diagram it or whatever they do in the 6th grade. Write a topic sentence with correct grammar. That would be a good one. And so the idea is that how do we map and model the whole student interaction? This has come up on FileMaker certification tests. I don't know if it will make it again in the future, but understanding this kind of thing is important, right? And so you say, well, I have a 6th grade class and a 6th grade English class, and you have a curriculum. So a curriculum means that you're going to cover as a teacher's edition guide. I got in trouble one time for buying the teacher's editions guide. You're not supposed to. The students aren't supposed to have those with the answers in them. Anyway, You have the teacher's curriculum says you're going to cover this, you teacher, because you're a certified teacher and we trust you with our kids. You're going to teach this curriculum over the next 3 months or 6 months or whatever, 8 months, 9 months. And that is a curriculum, so it's a specific class. Basically, this is a class, but it's basically a catalog of unique classes with curriculum, right? And so it's basically the idea that, you know, we're not going to repeat English, 6th grade English, 6th grade math, etc. in here because it's one record, right? And so, but we also know that we offer 6th grade English every year, right? And we don't build databases just for 2001 and then another database for 2002. Some of you do that. When I first started doing FileMaker, I was like, hey, let's build the database just for this year and then we'll duplicate and use it next year. Problem is you want to see the history of what a student's done from the previous years. So it has to be in one file. So you have to be able to support multiple years of a student's existence at your school. So what we end up doing is you end up saying, well, the English class is going to be repeated by 3 teachers. They like have a big school. I went to my high school had 3,000 people in it. It was the second biggest school, damn near in the state of California. It was in the state of California, if not the United States. It was like more like a small college, right? Very, very high end. Anyway, so they, in terms of the number of students, so they would have like 5 or 6 or 8, you know, 6th grade math classes going over the course of a day with different teachers, right? There were like 8 wings, 3,000 students at one time. Man, it's a big deal. So then if this is a uniqueness of the class, like 6th grade math is only here once, but you have it like 6 times during the year, then really you have to have this, you have to have something else over here, which is one record is one occurrence or one time the class is taught. And one of the things you have to work on is your terminology here. And so what we end up doing is we end up, when I teach people this in the world of FileMaker, I set this up for a security training operation in Nevada. Some of you know what I'm talking about. And they teach security and all sorts of crazy stuff. And they needed this worked out. Well, what this is, we end up calling this a class table here. We call this a course. We changed the term. So a course is a course that it can be repeated many times. If you're in college and you're missing a course to graduate and they don't offer it, you have to wait till it comes back around on another occurrence. Like say you miss it this year and you still need to graduate and they won't let you out before then, you have to wait and then come back and get it later. So this is, once again, multiple occurrences of the course. So a class is an occurrence of a course, right? Makes sense? One record, one time the class is being taught. So then we say, hey, this is one student and he's going to go to that class, right? So we're just going to connect it like all the way across, right? Except that then you run into the situation where that's by this model right here, this is one time this class is here, but there's only one record over here. And so what if the student wants to attend another class, right? So you get into this situation where, you know, you can't really attach the main student record directly to a class because the record's a class, right? This is not a student, and this is one record. How many times is a student going to take a class during a day? 6 or 7 times? So there's 6 or 7 things a student is doing during the day is different. You only have one record over here. How do we manage that, right? Then so you have a student over here, but you have basically another record here, which is where one record is a student at a class. Now, so the student is registered at a class. That makes sense? So then over here, we have this, right here, we have this going right here, but it turns out to be kind of a one-to-many relationship right here. And so I'm going to steal this one-to-many right here. So one student will have multiple registrations of different classes through the day, right? So he's going to register for a class, right? Makes sense, right? And so this record right here, these students, right? Remember, it's not just your student, but a whole bunch of students taking the class. So then they were going to all sign up and take this one registered class. So then you're going to have this model right here. Right? Makes sense. And if I can make something more clear to everyone, I would be happy to do that. But basically, the idea is that the student is registered multiple times during the day, each, 5, 6, 8, 10 records, and he's going to be going to different classes. That right here is a student registered at a class. So actually, you actually have in here the name of the student. We got Ken again. and he's in English sixth grade, right, or something like that, right? And so that's really the data that's in here, right? Very, very, very important that you start to understand that, right? And this is just Ken over here, right? This is the student. This is this Ken. Makes sense? This is Ken in sixth grade English. And this right here is just right here. This one right here is sixth grade English at 2 p.m. in room 301. See? Right? Makes sense? Makes more sense? Yes, yes? Once again, this is Ken. This is Ken in English in sixth grade, right? Right? In actually, technically, sixth grade, 2 p.m. room 301, right? Makes sense? That's what this represents right here. Then this is just English sixth grade, room 301, and this is just English sixth grade, right? Over here on this record, if we were going to break this all the way down for that scenario. So that way, if you say, show me the classes, show me all the sixth grade English that are being taught in this year, this would be multiple records here, right? Show me the curriculum of that course. Oh, it's here. There's only one of them, right? There's only one curriculum. Now, you take that curriculum, I'm thinking paper here, but PDFs or whatever, and you duplicate it for each instructor. And they each get instructor, all 6 instructors or 10 instructors have their own copies of that curriculum, right? This also happens to be taught by Mrs. Smith, right? So once again, it's Mrs. Smith. So then you got instructors, and then we could extend it down that way, right? This is how you build. You have to structure the relational design on paper before you go crazy. Now you can do it in FileMaker. Just understand you're going to rip and tear like I'm doing here, and you're going to unwind and rewind. It's just better to build it kind of on screen, I think, initially. Gerald Hayes, holy cow, Gerald is there. I don't remember you, Gerald. This is a question. I have a large FileMaker program set up, 125 tables, several relationships to use join tables. I use just one table for all my join related by adding different relationship keys or different tables. Any problem with strategy? I think that's selector connector, right? Is that a Christian? If you're there, I don't know if Christian is there, but that looks like selector connector to me. I use one table for all my joins, adding different relationship keys for different. That or it's the data separation model, right? Listen, Gerald, if it works, here's the thing. If you ask me a question, is this okay? Here's my criteria for this. Does it work for you and does it deliver accurate results? Okay, and your answer is yes. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, it's not like some people say, hey, can I speed at 200 miles an hour down the freeway? Well, the problem with doing that, I like that. I think going 200 miles an hour down the freeway would be awesome, but you do run the risk of running into someone or hurting someone else. If Gerald makes a smoking hole in the ground with his database, he's not going to hurt anyone else. So yeah, if it works for you and it has accurate results, fine. My only thought would be is that if you build it for you and then you want to sell it or scale it up, you need to make sure that you are using lean design, and that way it can scale to enterprise level size stuff. Yeah, so Gerald, you're asking sort of selector connector. If you know what selector connector is, then yeah, this conversation's kind of past you, to be honest with you. To get into conversations about selector connector and spider diagrams won't scale as well as Anchor Buoy does. This is not an opinion. This is documented scientific fact, period, end of story. If you take an equivalent spider diagram and you chew it into Anchor Buoy, the performance of the database in general for a lot of things it does will be about double. You could try to cook that one way or the other, but the same thing as selector connector has the same performance penalty. This isn't me saying this. I like Anchor Buoy because it's simple to explain and train people on. It's a different topic than this, although kind of vaguely related, I guess, since it's a relationship diagramming issue. This right here is not a diagram you can put. Actually, yeah, this would. Yeah, this is a diagram. You could actually support a diagram like this in FileMaker. It could actually look like this. The trick is you can't have any circular references in FileMaker. And so that's where, like if you had like a student was over here and then a student was down here helping the instructor, and it's the same table but two different, attachment points, that's not supported in FileMaker. You have to do it a different way. So, all right, everyone. Thanks again. We'll catch you tomorrow.
up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10, rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.